Out here, I just feel in the prison there, just in case I wanted, So good morning, big crowd. I believe you had a fantastic Christmas celebration yesterday. Yeah, that's good, You had all the food, nothing left, no? Just a little bit?
It's the vegetables.
Yeah. Now listen, the kids can stay here. Are they gonna do a Sunday service? Very nice. Great to see all these small kids around, isn't it? The third generation coming along. Excellent. So the Sunday service is chapter 1 mindset. Chapter 1 mindset. Has anybody heard of that idea before? Chapter 1 mindset. Yeah.
The two mindset. Okay.
Chapter 1. So, the principle, right? So obviously with the principle, you have chapter 1, the ideal, the 3 great blessings, right? Adam and Eve. So we're all born and created with this pre-plan in the universe. So the concept of the chapter 1 and the ideal, that existed pre-creation of the universe, right? Because God had a plan, a master plan for the universe. And it's all concisely put into chapter 1. And then you had the Big Bang and the whole process, and Adam and Eve, the first of humanity, and they screwed up basically, right? And the fall took place. Then you had chapter 2. And then there's a chapter 3, chapter 4, and there's all these different chapters, right? So you got your beautiful ideal, and then the fall took place, everything got unfolded, and then it was all about this coming back, right? And I remember when I was a young man, many decades ago, I was reading the principle, just like yourselves. When you start out in life, right, you kind of study and you ask questions, and I'm sure there's all different books that you're reading at the moment, and you're thinking, right? What's the big, that's the norm. Even your parents, believe it or not, were doing the same things, right? And we're still arguably, you can be still reading and thinking about it. But right when you're young and you're reading these books and you're getting inspired and we all want to live great lives, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's innate within human nature for us to have these dreams and ambitions. And typically, you could be old and be still passion and ambitions. But typically when you're young, especially you're idealistic and you have all these big passions and dreams. I remember reading the principle and really being fascinated. And most of the time, and I just over the years, when you're witnessing, teaching the principle of creation, that just lands great, right? That generally speaking, when you give a lecture, somebody hears the principle of creation, that's really inspiring. Fall of man is kind of all potentially downhill after that. That's a difficult lecture. It can be people can get enlightened by it or they can react badly. You don't know, right? You kind of continue. But the principle of creation is really inspiring. And as a young man, I was thinking, in the church and everybody can pick up a book and everybody can read a book and we all interpret the book in our own way, which is completely understandable because we all have unique experiences. And based on those experiences, we will interpret the book in our own way, right? I remember reading it and looking at it, and it kind of, there was this different narratives within the interpretation of the principle. One narrative is, the ideal, that's the ideal, but the fall took place, and the traditional religious narrative, we're all sinners, and we're just unworthy. We're just totally unworthy. You know what I mean? And I remember reading at these lectures and, you're gonna get blessed. You're so unworthy, you should just go and, be completely, you don't deserve anything. We're sinners and we're fallen and we're miserable and we should just repent and suffer and redeem the world. And God is suffering and miserable because of the fall. And we should just go and just try to redeem our sins and the sins of our ancestors, And as a young Irish man in America listening to that, was like, "Yeah, that's really depressing. That's kind of." I'll be honest with you, I wasn't buying it. No, I fully agreed with it. There's no debate on principle, right? Principle, the fall, and all of this. I understood reading the principle. I was crazy into reading the principle. I'm talking, 11 times cover to cover. Okay, so I knew my stuff within my own limitations. So I didn't disagree with that viewpoint. And I understood from the principle where you could come with that. I just wasn't, that was not the interpretation. And I began to think, I said, hang on a second. The purpose of creation is the fulfillment of the three great ideals. We basically are created to return joy to God by actualizing the three great blessings. That's a sound bite from the DB, by the way, right? If you want a sound bite, that's it. We're created in the image of God, right? Our purpose is to return joy to God by fulfilling the three great blessings. Well, story finished, right? Okay, and then I'm beginning to think, so if that's the purpose, then going around being miserable and you get into those damnity stuff, because it sounds it can sound very religious or very kind of humble and everything. But I've seen people just getting into this kind of, walking the life of misery and suffering. And they weren't inspiring themselves or anyone else. And I wasn't overly enamored by it. And I'm thinking, hang on a second, we're created in the image of God, fulfill the three great blessings, God is happy. And then you solve chapter 2, 3, 4, and 5. It doesn't mean to say the fall or even doesn't exist, or you don't neglect it. So as a young man, I came to the conclusion, okay, I'm going to focus on, and I turned to myself, chapter 1 mindset. Maybe someone else turned it as well, but just this idea that I'm going to focus on the three great blessings and actualizing the three great blessings. Now, some people might see there's a bit of a problem in that, right? Because, see, if you may interpret the three great blessings as such this abstract perfection of oneness of God with this 92-degree angle and everything I think and say and it's an act of God, and the actualization of the three great blessings is so esoteric and so out there. It's like we're unworthy of this. We're incapable. We're sinners. We're fallen. We can't do this, right? And you could. And can I actually love my worst enemy? Right? You get into all of this. Listen, if you want to talk yourself out of something, you can. Right? If you want to talk yourself out of it, but that's understandable. Now, I understand that kind of. You can study and you can come to that conclusion of this abstract three great blessings. It's so way out there. I can't touch that. That's not going to be a problem for me. It's just too hard of a point. I personally think, okay, that mindset is problematic because it doesn't matter. The bottom line is we are created in the image of God, and the purpose is the actualization of the three great blessings. And if you put the three great blessings way out of your reach and you figure that's it, I'm unworthy, I'm doomed, and I'm just going to be a miserable sinner that's going to repent and somehow, stay humble as a sinner, and that's not, I don't think that makes God happy. And as a parent, if your child had that mindset, you probably wouldn't be too happy either. Okay? So, but it is an issue, having this abstract, idealistic, if you have a standard that's so high. Let me give an example, right? Let's say you want to get into fitness and health, right? And you're not the healthiest, fittest person, but you've got the Iron Man. You've got Eli, you say, okay, Iron Man, that's it. Like, that's extreme. Top athletes would be able to do it. But do you understand me? It's the idea. Iron Man. You're doing it. But if you set your goals so high and so esoteric and so above and beyond, quite frankly, you're doomed to fail. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that's what God wants. I don't think that's what you want. I don't think that's what anyone wants. Okay, so the first thing about mindset, chapter 1 mindset, is you have to bring the three great blessings into the physical earth and make them realistic targets, right? And forget about okay, I'm not perfect. I'm full of sin. I had this goal 30 years ago and I'm still fallen nature and I still have sin and everything else, right? But then forget all that. Realistic 3 great blessings, what are they? And how can I realistically step by step do it? So then you break it down. First blessing, mind and body. Right? So very, very simple. Obviously, the body, you eat healthy food, you exercise, and you maintain a healthy lifestyle. Right? Also, of course, part of the body, you don't take drugs. And this is actually quite common. This is not a profound revelation in society, right? You eat and live a healthy lifestyle. Mindset, right? Now that's tricky, okay, you've got your perfect mindset, but basically there are fundamentals. There is a fundamental, realistic, healthy mindset that we should all aspire to. Okay? The opposite to an unhealthy mindset is feeling like a victim, being resentful, blaming other people all the time. Right? This is a common unhealthy mindset, right? And then we all have resentments and we all feel slighted in some way. We all deal with that. Everybody deals with that, whether it's in work or in relationships or whatever. Healthy mindset is an ownership mindset, okay? So you're going to be hurt and offended sometimes. You got to try to let go. Move on. What can I do better? Right? It's difficult to make a living. It's difficult to get on with people. Okay, in relationships, how can I be the change? Right? That's an ownership mindset. Because we're all going to have problems in relationships. Everybody has them. How can I be the change? How can I do something better? That's an ownership mindset. Right? In terms of making a living and being successful in life, instead of blaming the government and blaming everyone else. Yeah? Ownership mindset is very, very important. So let's just say you're a young man, young woman, right? And you want to have a responsible ownership mindset, right? You're not perfect. Other people are not perfect. The country is not perfect. The world is not perfect. You are going to be, what am I going to do? I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to take ownership. And you live a healthy lifestyle. That's the first blessing, right? Pretty simple. Everybody can see that? Second blessing is love and relationships, right? This is a challenge, and it's a challenge for everybody. Some of you are blessed, and some of you are in the process of the blessing, and some of us are married for 10, 20, 30 years, right? Of course, the whole second blessing is the 4 kinds of love, but the central tenet, the bridge, when you have a bridge, and the center stone, they call it the capstone in the middle, yeah? So when you're building this stone bridge, you build the stones along here. And then you put the center capstone right in the middle. And that holds everything together. Yeah? Well, in the second blessing, the central capstone in the second blessing, the most important thing, is the husband and wife relationship, the pair system. Right? In accordance with the principle, we actually exist not as individuals, but as pair. Right? And that is, the second blessing is the cultivation and development of a loving relationship between a man and woman, husband and wife relationship. Okay? So that's the core. And then from those relationships, extend all the other relationships. Parent-child relationships, friends, colleagues, works, and everything else. But the most important second relationship, in terms of fulfillment of chapter 1 mindset, is this relationship. It's really, really crucial. Right? And the thing is this, imagine if you're in a situation where you're not getting on with different people at work, right? And you're going to have different tensions, but then you come home and you got a reasonably good relationship. You're always going to have tensions in any healthy relationship, but you got a reasonably good relationship there, okay? And that's fine, you can change your job. You can get a new job, maybe you don't get with the neighbors, but you may move somewhere else. But that's a core relationship. It really is central. Okay? And moving on, the third blessing. Now, the third blessing is really interesting because it is, even today in our community, it's so dominion over all things. I mean, I could ask 5 people to find the third blessing, and you're going to come up with different kinds of things. Technically, we know what dominion over all things is basically everything and anything outside of human beings, right? And then, I was just preparing for the Sunday service. There was this picture, and then it's the environment and, the tree huggers and loving everything. And all of that is all correct. Okay, all of that stuff is correct, right? You can argue just eating healthy food. But the third blessing, here's my realistic interpretation of the third blessing. Now, it's an interpretation, it's not exact, but it is, and it's very, very important, right? It's what makes it relevant to life, as important key element of life. Prosperity. It's something the Unification Church community, we don't talk about, right? You don't get lectures on it. It's not kind of a subject, being prosperous in life. I believe, and I've been believing this for 30 years, and I practiced this, and I said I was a young man at the beginning of my life, and I decided I'm going to be prosperous. Because God wants us to be prosperous, right? The prosperity is not just money or Ferrari. There's more. Prosperity is your craft, right? All things is your ability. You could be an electrician or a carpenter, right? You could be a musician. You could be playing music. I mean, playing an instrument, learning skills, stuff you do in school, being a programmer, creating wealth and money, right? This is very, very important. It's this topic it's kind of, it's just we don't discuss it. I personally believe prosperity is a very, very important part. Now, how do you define prosperity? See, it's prosperity, how do you define it? Is it a Ferrari and a big mansion or something like that? No. Prosperity is different things for different people. If you're a young kid and you're living in your parents' house, quite frankly, prosperity could be just pocket money you're making from, right? And if you're retired and you're living in a lovely warm house and you have enough to feed and you don't have kids to deal with, right? That's what prosperity is, isn't it? Prosperity is having enough means to provide for yourself and your family and a little bit extra. That's all that is. That is what prosperity is, right? Prosperity, I believe, is very, very important. I'm a big, big component. I believe it's a God. Now, it's a separate lecture, and I don't want to get into the whole prosperity thing, but there is a set formula on how to be prosperous in life. And it's not this quick fix YouTube-y things, or sometimes unifications are always in their networking programs or their Ponzi schemes and all of this kind of thing. It's much more grounded, right? But I believe prosperity. So there's three things. If you take the principle, and if you look about the principle as like a stand, and if you have a table and it's just got two legs, it's going to fall over. Table typically has four legs, right? But actually, you can actually keep a table standing with three legs, right? With three legs, and that's the three great blessings: healthy mind and body, loving relationships, especially the core relationship of the husband and wife, and prosperity. We don't talk about it a lot in the movement, but it's very important. Actually, we all know, in 2008 crash, divorce rates go up. A big problem in relationships is money and stress related to money, especially for families. Prosperity is more important, by the way. It's when you get married and have children. You could be two young people, even if you're married, you could be, you live in a small place. You actually, you don't need, you can be, when you're young and you be on a mission, everything could be in one backpack, right? And then you get married. Even when you're married with no kids, not a big, you can live in a very, very small place. You could both be working at McDonald's if you're fine. So when you have kids and you watch another time, then you need a bigger house. And all the stuff you need to buy just for one day, right? It's unbelievable. And then suddenly the whole prosperity thing is actually, to provide for a family costs a fortune. And by the way, I don't want to depress anybody, but it just gets more expensive to get older. Right? You know what I mean? Teenage year from Christmas time is a lot different than little budget. Some kind of Toys R Us €20 thing. They're like €200, the latest electronic computer guy, even the computer and the PlayStation and this, that, and the other. But prosperity is very, very important. But I'm not going to get into it in this thing, but I just wanted to. So that's the three great blessings. Okay, so basically, if you wake up in the morning and you say, now what does the science say about this? So this is the principle. This is my personal interpretation of a realistic interpretation of what the three great blessings is. It evolves around family values and getting married and building family, right? And being healthy in mind and body, living for the sake of others, right? And being prosperous and providing for your family. Right? That's the point. That's actually pretty much the core. What does science say about it? There is a Harvard study that's been going on for about 80 years. And in Harvard, they're complete and utter, they're atheists. Right? And from that, they have the psychology of happiness. All right? And they've done this research on young people from different backgrounds right throughout their lives for 80 years. Now, it's kind of wrapping up now because actually all the recipients are mostly dying at this stage, right? And it takes you, and what they wanted to research was what makes people happy? What is the key to happiness? Now, these are atheists and they're pure, completely, and ironically, the number one, the core element that makes people happy is actually what they discovered. The people who are living throughout their whole lives, so they studied them when they were small kids, right? Now it's kind of finishing up now because they're pretty much unless they're 9 years of age, the same recipients, right? And some people ended up committing suicide, some ended up being really getting on, being phenomenally happy and successful in life and everything else. And they're scientists and they just want to know, okay, so what actually, who's happy, who's not happy, and what is their commonalities there? It's pure research, pure science. And the fascinating thing is the key element they discovered is people in long-term loving relationships. Long-term loving relationships, right, are the most happiest. Not the people with the wealthiest or the richest or the most prosperous, right? But which is the second blessing. Now, but here's an interesting thing. Right, here's an interesting thing. They found that people who were in long-term loving relationships, right, ended up being physically healthier. And they took care of themselves better. Where people who are not in it, who are lonely and in these broken relationships who weren't so happy, then of course they ended up getting into, drinking too much, not caring about their welfare, their well-being, et cetera, et cetera. And that same group ran into money problems. Right? Financially healthier people, which is counterintuitive because you get married and have kids is really financially a bad idea. But actually, it's not. So research shows that people in those long-term loving relationships, we're more prosperous. They're more healthier in mind and body, which is so they come up with the criteria from science, what defines a happy human being. And their conclusion is the exact same as the divine principle. People who are healthy in mind and body, as an essential element, it's one element. People who are in loving relationships, specifically they identify people in long-term loving relationships, what we call marriage. Right? Yeah? And they found that these people are also more prosperous. Which makes sense. Get divorced. Your wife's going to take half your money. So financially, you're going to be in trouble. But seriously. And they found that this is holistic. So the conclusion is this. Every single one of us, the type of reading, we're all without exception. You have it on your WhatsApp thing. Yeah. We're all struggling. Everybody wants to be happy. Right? And we come up with all these different goals. Right? And we base on the different things we want to achieve and accomplish. Well, whatever your goals are, I can tell you exactly, scientifically and according to the principle, specifically what actually makes you happy. Right? Healthy mind and body is essential. Loving relationships, especially the primary loving relationship between a husband and a wife, right? And being prosperous. It's relative, prosperity is relative to where you're at in your life. It's the most expensive time prosperity really kicks in is when you have children and you're thinking about a house and getting a house, then money really, it's very, very stressful. For young couples in particular, after you get it, I remember when we had a house and a mortgage and the stress. I mean, it's really, that's really, before that, it's not a big deal. But prosperity is very, very important. And those are the three core principles that you should focus on. So that's great, just write them down, do them, and you're all going to be happy, right? Right? Actually, yes and no. And it's achievable to do all of these things, but it's a little bit. People who get divorced, it's not because they don't believe in marriage, right? And it's not because they didn't want marriage. So the big question is when you identify, okay, so these are the core goals that you need. And most people, even science and most common sense people will agree with that. How do you actualize it? And that's the biggest problem, right? Because all these young people starting off their lives, they all have these dreams, but many times in life, we end up living survival mode. We don't maybe end up fulfilling all of these. So how do you fulfill them? They're not that easy. The first blessing and the third blessing is much more in our own control, right? Because it's within your own dominion and your own personal responsibility. The second blessing within the relationship is a little more because it's two people, right? And it's really a team effort. And, you got a situation where the wife is really dedicated and committed and loving, and the husband's just completely irresponsible, right? You can end up in a difficult situation, right? So the second blessing is really tricky because you don't have 100% control over, it's a team sport. That's what I'm trying to say, right? It's like you're on a football team. You may be a brilliant goalie, but the guys at the front, the strikers can't score, right? So it's like the second blessing is a team sport, right? And you basically need to try to work that out. So I don't want to get too into the second blessing. The unification church, we're very much focused on that and everything else, second blessing, right? So how to be successful in life and what are the problems? Now I'm not going to go totally into it. This is a quick over-level kind of, it's a quick kind of whistle tour, and it gets you to think about it. And I just wanted to throw out some very, very high levels, okay? This is something that's in my life. This is a testimony of what I believe in. It's something I've been practicing when I was a young man, reading all these books and trying out all these different things. So when you're young and you're reading and you're doing all these books, that's all great. But what happens 30 years down the line? What worked? What doesn't work? What sounded great all the time, right? So this is my advice to you, right? Get the core things right in your life. And these are not big kind of like, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to cure cancer. I mean, all that stuff is great. I'm going to drive a Ferrari. Or whatever I'm going to be a billionaire. I'm going to build. Whatever the thing is, that's fun. But actually, we help you. I'm going to develop a loving relationship with my partner, and I'm going to extend that loving relationship to the people around me. And prosperity is just, I'm going to have enough, right? Actually, interesting enough, scientific research on prosperity, they discovered, right? If you make people who are poor are miserable. And money's an interesting thing, right? So is money the key to happiness? No. Here's my lovely soundbite on this. Is money the key to happiness? Absolutely not. But you know what? Poverty is the key to this. No, seriously. If you're in a situation, depends on your personal situation, if you're really, really stuck with resources, it can be a difficult situation. But then suddenly, if you have the resources, it's like it doesn't actually make you happy, it just relieves the pain. Does that make sense? Very, very important. You think, oh, I've got thousands of euros in my bank account, must be really, really happy. No, it's almost like you forget about it, right? So prosperity, what they researched in prosperity between prosperity and happiness is this, right? Is there's a bell curve. When you're poor, there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of difficulty, and that can affect your marriage as well. And then it can affect your relationships, right? And people do, it's not that money is the key to a loving relationship, but if you're in a difficult, stressed relationship and then there's money issues, it just adds to the more stress and it can create other arguments and it can cause all kinds of problems. Right? But what they do, if you're basically making, they put the example of $100,000 in America, depends where you're living. I mean, if you want to buy a house in Ireland, how much do you need to make? Well, you guys bought houses, throw out a figure. About 100,000, because it's 3 times. That's a crazy amount of money. Now you can buy a house in a better area that's cheaper, but that's a crazy amount of money, 100,000. That's how much it is. And that's just a nice 3-bed house out in Dunshaughlin, right? You know what I mean? Like they're beautiful houses, they're great first houses and everything else. You can go further out to Carlow or Roscommon, maybe it's you know what I mean? But anyway, research shows that people, if you're not making a lot of money and you're poor, it has a negative impact on your life. But as soon as you reach the basic amount of money where you have enough to put a roof over your head, to feed yourself, to go on 1 or 2 holidays, right? So if you think getting rich is the secret of happiness, it's not. Research shows that being rich is success. So when I talk about prosperity, I'm not talking about being rich. Science shows that young people want to be rich and famous and drive a Ferrari and do all of this stuff. Good luck. It's not going to make you happy. It makes you miserable, especially if you're in Ireland. Irish people hate success. Imagine a guy with a Ferrari and scratch his car and come back. Oh my God. Even in Scandinavia, right? Taxis, rich people, we're selling. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Research shows you have a certain amount, all you need. And then prosperity. Another quick, I want to say a quick thing on prosperity. One thing, just to clarify the principle, what's the principle perspective on this, right? The principle perspective of prosperity, you know the concept of reversal of dominion. So if you live to buy things and have things, that's a reversal of dominion because the things are subject and you're object, right? That's completely unprincipled. Or you think my value, I drive a Ferrari because I have greater social status. Well, that's completely reversal of dominion because that's putting things as subjects, right? And then suddenly, if I'm associated with that thing, I have value, which is completely unprincipled, right? So when we talk about prosperity, we're not talking about people who, you know, these new Netflix things, the Dubai bling, Sunset Boulevard, it's just all these crazy rich Asians, right? You know that these you guys don't watch rubbish on Netflix. No, I have no idea. Nothing to you, profit. I'm gonna reach home. So just to be clear, just to clarify, right? Prosperity is just a means that helps us. The most important blessing, according to the principle, what's the most important blessing? Where we find our fulfillment and the meaning of life is. Second blessing, love. The purpose of the universe is love, therefore as a love, straight through the second blessing. Right? So this is a good thing for you, millennials and all your X generations. You know, you want to go work for these Google companies, and I'm seeking for meaning and purpose in my life, and I want to have a job that I really can save the world, and I want to be in a company that shares my values, and you know, not all that kind of that hippie stuff that's around. Complete bit of rubbish. Let me tell you something, guys. Total rubbish. Okay, you want to find purpose and meaning? Go home to your wife and kids, right? You find purpose, and then what you do at the weekend with your loved ones and your friends, right? If you happen to be a doctor and you're doing surgery or you're doing something, that's great. Okay, I'm not knocking that. But actually the purpose and meaning of life, and most young people, I think women are much more in tune with that, but most men are clueless. They're thinking job and career and Ferraris or different things. That's not going to make you happy. The key element, healthy mind and body, loving relationships. Prosperity is important, but it's in the context of enabling and empowering, you know, the family. So you can provide for your family and your loved ones and take care of everything. And research shows actually super rich people. Look at Elon Musk, all the money he has. He's divorced 3 or 4 times. One of his kids disowned him. Elon Musk. He bought Twitter. These loser people in Twitter. They're all ultra liberal, left wing, pacifists, so I'm glad they lost.
They're not there anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Go work for Google. We'll get a job. Okay, so how do you achieve these things? I'm not gonna go in depth, but I want to give you a quick idea, because the truth of the matter is, okay, it's easy to have goals. We all have goals, but most of us don't actualize our goals. I know it's depressing, but it's true. Right? Most of us don't. And here's why we don't. Right? The first thing, and these are just quick things to kind of wrap it up because I won't go on forever, but it's important. I don't want to leave you with the goals and then how do you do them or don't do them. Right? In this case, so goals, a lot of times we have goals based on our passions. Pursue your passions. Do you ever do that? YouTube videos, pursue your passions. You can charge $500 a day. You're on Bali, digital nomad, pursue your passion. Do what you love. Do what you love, and it's just gonna be amazing, because you're gonna be amazing at what you love, because you love it's your passion, and then you'll have everything really, really successful and really, really rich. How much love can be slightly like that's a big trend. This is the philosophy of young people today. Imagine you when you were a young man. What are you doing here? Did you do your chores this morning? Right? Yeah. And by the way, I'm selling a course for €1,000, and this course will teach you how to pursue your passions and do it all. Just sign here.
Yeah.
Right. Sure. Okay, so you all hear about that, but that's human nature. We think about goals and we set our goals based on our passions and our interests, right? Well, that's the first mistake we make. And do you know why? Because passions are emotions. And emotions, do you ever feel passionate about something? And the next week, suddenly, you lose your passion? Yeah? That's quite common. That's the very nature of emotions, right? So when you have this, I'm going to get into physical fitness and health, and I'm thinking down all the stairs, and I'm going to get the band thing, and I'm really excited, like pumped, man, and you're all passionate about it, right? And then that's the idea, and you pursue your passion, first day, second day, third day, I don't feel like it, and you give up. You give up, right? It's normal. Over time, you give up. Why? Because you lost your passion. That's your first problem, right? Now, there's nothing wrong in and of itself of having interests and passions or pursuing passions. I'm not saying that. What I'm talking about, long-term goals in life, right? Pursue your passion, waste of time. You're going to change your feelings about it. If your central motive is your feeling, okay, forget about it. So you're not going to do it the next day because you don't feel like it. Or you don't feel like it, but you kind of force yourself to do it. But then when you force yourself to do it, you don't like it. And in the end, you give up.
That's called work.
Yeah. The second thing is and just a few. Second high level of why people fail is because your goals are way too high. You're down here, right? And taking a 45-minute walk is a challenge, and you think I'm going to do Ironman, right? And we basically have too high a goal. Way too high. We basically don't acknowledge who we are and where we're at. Okay? We all have, and research shows this, we all have an exaggerated opinion of ourselves. We all think we're smarter than we actually are. No, this is depressing, sorry. But it's okay. You're confident in yourself, you can have it. We all think we're smarter than we think we are. We probably think we're healthy. If you wrote that, how healthy you feel, oh, I could do this and that. It's just human nature, and that's a good thing. Having a positive disposition is a good thing. I'm not knocking that. Generally speaking, if you were the opposite, it's not good. But the truth of the matter is, our goals are we have these goals that are big and abstract and huge, and I'm just going to be a scientist. I'm going to, I'm going to go to Mars. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Lost cause. The fact is, we're down here on the ground, and our goals are way too hard. right? So I'm going to give you a quick scenario of how to be successful in life, right? And how to achieve your goals. The first thing, let's get into it. Let's use an example of physical fitness. Most people come in the new year, have a goal, and they'll lose weight, and they'll do this, that, and the other, and most people fail. That's scientific fact, right? And we all know we basically eat too much food and we don't exercise enough. There's no, we're not lacking knowledge, right? I mean, there's so much science today on nutrition and you can get into it. Quite frankly, it didn't really matter. 30, 40 years ago, it was understanding this basically exercise and eat healthy food. Very simple, right? But we'll fail in it, right? And you come up with your goals and you're going to fail in them and you have your passion, you failed. Secret of success, right? Is the first thing is value centric. You have to be, you do things because of your values, right? And what that means is I'm going to exercise because of values. So not a passion. It's not a passion. It's a fundamental belief system. I believe in a healthy lifestyle, right? It's a value. That's who I am. That's my value. Now, a value is something you believe in 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week, for the rest of your life. Do you understand me? It's a value. That's my value. Right? And you live your values. You know, your values in marriage and all your values. So you can go through a difficult marriage, or you could go to this one. I'm going to ditch my wife and move on. No, it's a value system. Correct? You see that? When you have a value system that is ingrained 24/7, irrespective of who you are, where you are, what you're doing. I live a healthy lifestyle and I exercise and I because that's my value system. So don't pursue it on passions. Clarify what your value system. And your value system is 3 great blessings. So that's what's going to make you happy. Right? Another thing is basically, is self-image. Right? There's a brilliant book, Atomic Habits. Everybody should read it. It's an amazing book, right? So let me give you an example about a runner. Okay, so you get into exercise, you're tired, you're sick, it's very hard. Let's just be honest. Losing weight and living a healthy lifestyle is hard. Okay, it's hard for everybody. Well, not everybody, but most people. It's hard. And the older you get, it's hard, period. Right? It's self-image. The key is not to have a goal or have a value system, but to have a self-image. If you view yourself as a runner and you see yourself as a runner, what does runners do? They run, right? They run. So I use Vivian as an example. Sometimes Vivian, you wake up, you're sick, got a head cold, there's a race coming up, right? And what do? You run. Why do you run? Because you're a runner. That's the key. Seriously, you have to basically, if you see yourself as I hate exercise and I'm totally out of shape and this is me and that's your self-image, but I should do something because I'm supposed to do something. Let me tell you something, don't even try, you're doomed to fail. Because you have to, it's how you see yourself. Value and self-image is the key. Right? Value and self-image is the key. If you've given up in your mind and you've written yourself off, it's almost like I'm a total loser, but I want to be a total winner. Then you're basically fighting against yourself. That's one of the biggest problems. Right? You become your own enemy. You get some people, some millionaires, and they make millions and they lose everything. They make it because they see themselves as successful entrepreneurs. And it's divided and it's separate whether they're successful or not. Even the highly successful millionaires, they can lose everything and be complete failure. And you think, oh, that's it, they're a total failure, then they'll give up. No, they don't, because they see themselves, you understand me, mentally as successful entrepreneurs. And even if everything blows up and they totally screw up and make every mistake in the world, they'll go back and do it again. Right? This is the key to success. If you want to be successful in mind and body, you've got to basically, you may not be a performing athlete. Again, it has to be a realistic goal and a realistic self-image. If you're not big into sports or exercise or health, just using it as an example, give yourself realistic goals and self-image. And this is who I am and this is what I do. right? And then you got to change it. That's the key to success on all aspects of life. Now, it's easier on the first blessing and the third blessing, right? Generating prosperity, that's it. I'm a successful entrepreneur. I go out there, I'm successful, and I generate wealth. Whether you're a craftsman, electrician, right? You could be, I'm a successful DIY guy. I have my skills, that's what I do. And I just go out and generate it. You see yourself in that image. Or if I could lose my job in the morning, I'm in sales, so I'm constantly going into ground zero all the time. I don't know how many times I've lost my job. It's normal, right? In that sales cycle, you're at zero. Got no money, no job, no nothing. Right? Doesn't matter. Mindset. The key to success is mindset, right? Whatever you want to do in life, you need to see yourself. That's my mindset, right? Marriage is an interesting one, right? It's a highly sensitive one. But let me tell you something, okay? You got to, even in marriage, if you see yourself, I'm a horrible, terrible person, and I'm unlovable, that's a problematic attitude, isn't it? Now, I'm not saying you can go the other extreme of being arrogant, but you have to have confidence in yourself, right? Isn't it? So there's a fine line, how you see yourself. Mind and body, you've got to see yourself. My value system is living a healthy lifestyle. I want to be healthy, to provide for my family, to be around, to be able to play with my children, and live a healthy lifestyle. And end up, like Halbert, and at his age, he's still running around the place at that physical health. That's great. I want to finally get my pension. I'm going to live till 90 years of age and have enough energy to give everybody grief. No, but seriously, that's it. That's your mindset. That's who I am. Marriage, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, I'm a horrible person, I'm a terrible person, that's a problem. Oh my God, I'm not going to stick myself on the side, I'm not going to do this, It's a lot of emotions coming in. Now, I'm not talking about being super arrogant, because that's not good either. You can be overly confident and have an exaggerated opinion of yourself, that's bad. You can be but you need to see yourself within that. So for 3 great blessings, mind and body, I believe in a healthy lifestyle, I am a healthy lifestyle person, and I just do it. Focus on the process and let the results take care of themselves. Don't come up with your goals, your weights. I see people in the gym, January, February, March, the place is full of people, and you can spot them a mile away. And you know what? 2 months, they're gone. Right? The place is half empty after that. Because they're doing it because they have to, and their goals and their passions. Forget about it. I do it because that's who I am. And then you're going to do it every single day for the rest of your life. Whatever that is, within the context of your own fitness and well-being and how you define it and your interests, just do something every single day. Marriage, believe in yourself. I'm getting into this whole thing of marriage and relationship. But and we talk about if you go to marriage counseling, they talk about communication, which is really, really important. But another thing they don't talk about as important is your own self-confidence in your own ability. Right? You're married and you have a wife, and she's complaining, and she's criticizing you. I mean, you better believe in yourself. It's only natural in a relationship, right? Just 2 people live together and they you have these relationships, you know what I mean? You gotta believe in yourself. Right? If you're a woman and you think, I don't know if I can find love in life, and I'm not so this and not so that, that's not happening. Mindset. Prosperity is a mindset. Again, the prosperity, there's a whole thing of prosperity in terms of how to be prosperous. So very grounded. None of this gimmicks and stuff like that. It's much more about high income salary, get a high income skill, and then there's you don't forget these quick rich programs, but there is an actual process to be prosperous. And if you talk to prosperous people, I mean, I'm a millionaire, but just talk with people who provide and are successful. There's a fundamental key prosperity trajectory. And that's another thing I encourage every single one of you to be clear about. Go out there and be prosperous, right? And it's a blessing from God. God wants us to be prosperous. Because when you're prosperous, you're in a better position to be able to give to people. I mean, there's always these GoFund things, and everybody passes away, there's a GoFund or something happens. I mean, practically need to be prosperous to be given all this GoFund programs all the time. So prosperity is important as well. So that's the 3 great blessings, right? And remember, just define it. This is who I am. This is what I believe in. Okay, and beyond life, you can still do other things that are amazing, but they're the core. Forget about all your passions. I do it because this is who I am. This is my identity. And if you don't have that identity and you see yourself as completely, I hate sports and I hate physical exercise and I hate all that, well, that's going to be a problem, right? Or, I have no confidence in prosperity, blah, blah, blah. Well, marry someone who it is. If you're a woman, it's not really a solution for a man, but the other way around, and go for it and be successful and happy in life. All right. Thank you very much. Let me finish with a prayer. Dearest Heavenly Father, we're really grateful that as a community we can come together, and it's so precious that we have each other, and we have this opportunity to really, just really to share values and guidance. The whole world is so messed up, so confused, and the whole value system is just completely upside down. And we're very, very fortunate that we have a clear set of guidance and inspirations from the true parents, and this can help us. And obviously, with that guidance, we still have our own 5% portion of responsibility. And we're fortunate to have each other as well as a community, and we can really kind of get inspired by each other, encourage and support each other, because ultimately we all seek for happiness and fulfillment on an individual level. We want to extend that to the family level and extend that beyond the family level. We also want to return joy to you and our true parents. So I'd like to offer this in environment Canada Central Trust Family. Thank you.